Hey everybody, it's Colin Ellis here. Welcome to another episode of Culture and Coffee. How was your weekend? What did you get up to? Did you watch the Olympics? Did you watch the closing ceremony? Yeah, no, I didn't. I've come to realise with things like the Olympics and the major sports ceremonies, unless it's football, the real football, the one the world plays, or baseball, I'm not really interested. They're my two sports of choice. They really are. But the Olympics gave everybody a lift, didn't it? Not so much the people of Japan, where the virus went out of control and they had a bunch more deaths, but that's okay as long as the world got a lift from watching the Olympics. That's the main thing. Um, yeah, I found I dipped in and out, with the Olympics every now and again. If I was at a loose end, I would just throw it on the TV and kind of watch it. A couple of bonkers events though that I watched. I watched the women's 10,000 meters. Would that be Friday or Saturday? Like, and once you start, like you're completely invested then. Like, I think the race was about half an hour. And at the end, like literally every competitor, once they got to the end, just kind of collapsed, and some of them were sick and they were just like completely fatigued and like brutal. Like the stamina that these people have, it's just incredible. And the heat and humidity and just like the training they must do um, to do all that's absolutely incredible. And there was a Dutch woman who won the 10,000 meters, Sifan Hassan, I think her name was. Just incredible. Like, and she'd won like the gold medal in the 5,000 meters, and she'd won a medal in the 1,500. Just amazing. Don't know how they do that. Also, don't know how anyone does the pole vault. Like, like when I don't know about you. When I was at school, we had a school sports day. Now, I was quite quick when I was young, so I was like always a 100-meter sprint. So I'd always watch the 100 meters, 200 meters, the men's and women's events. I really like those events because it's over quickly and I don't have to invest for half an hour, or like 3 days or whatever it is. And so I was, sprinting. So like, when you're kids at school, you're quick, you go in the sprint. So you seem to be good at jumping. I saw you jumping over a fence. You go in the high jump. Or you seem to be good at throwing stuff at people. So why don't you try the javelin? How does the pole vault become a thing? If there are any pole vaulters are listening, I'd love to know, what happens, when you're at school, when you're at university, where people are like, you know what? Have you ever thought of grabbing a 17-foot pole and throwing yourself 5 to 6 meters up in the air? Because I really think that could be a thing for you. Like like an every time I see someone running with it's like the pole with the pole vault, I'm like, yeah, there's no way. I'd be like, what am I doing? Who thought this was a good idea for me to run and throw myself up in it? Like, just think, like, don't get me wrong, absolutely incredible skill, and that there's now was it a Swedish guy who won it? I think it was a Swedish guy who won it. He was about 12. Duplantis, that was his name, because I'm thinking, oh, it's quite an apt name for a pole vault. You just got to duplant the pole in, and yeah, he's Duplantis, absolutely amazing guy. I think he looked about 12, so he's probably about 20 or something like that. Anyway, the Olympics. This is not what you listen to the podcast for. Hey, thanks so much. A bunch of you must have shared the podcast. It's got a load of listens last week. I wasn't expecting that at all. When you launch a new podcast, you kind of hope people will listen. But ultimately you think it's just going to be you, because none of the family are ever going to listen to it. No, my wife did listen to it, actually. She said you're really good. So culture and coffee, I should really talk about those things. I've got my coffee here, which is delicious. Now I brought the beans with me. Here we go. So it's a Werka, Werka, and so Werka's from Ethiopia, from West Arsi in Ethiopia. And I suppose, like wines, there are certain regions which, God, if my mates could hear me now talking about wines and coffees. Listen to you, lad. Where did you get to with your fancy wine stuff? It's red or white, remember? There are certain areas produce certain kinds of beans, and just I love Ethiopian coffee. I don't know what it is, and so Werka is a great one. It's made by the people at Market Lane Coffee. Now, Market Lane, they have their roastery. It's about a 15-minute walk from my house, And what they've got outside the front of their roastery, and it's also their training facility, is they have a vending machine for coffee. It's such a Melbourne thing. They have a vending machine for coffee, so you can go and swipe your card and you can get bags of beans and filter papers. I took my daughter out the other night and we had a nice little walk out in the dark because we're locked down in Melbourne again here. And so, yeah, we went to the vending machine and got some coffee. So it's absolutely delicious. I do love the Ethiopian coffees. It says on the front here, the notes are cherry and orange with a soft spice finish. Let me just see if I'm getting that. Yeah, I'm getting all of those things. I'm working on my palate, to be fair. You know, like they always say. Actually, I'm better with whiskey because I've been drinking that a little bit longer. Um, but you know, it takes a while to develop a palate of these things. But it's lovely and smooth and it's delicious. And the coffee from Market Lane is fabulous. I want to talk to you today about getting some stuff done. And we call it productivity in the culture world. Productivity. It feels like it's becoming harder, you know, certainly with the people that I work with. I feel like it's getting harder to get stuff done. That's definitely what people are talking about. There are so many demands on people's time, and it's hard to strike that balance. Sometimes it's hard to get to, or it seems to be hard to get to the end of the day knowing that you've really kind of put a shift in. For some people, the day never ends, right? And it never ends. It's just like, I'll just do this one more thing and this one more thing, this one more thing. And before you know it, it's kind of 11:30 at night and that one more thing has turned into four more things. And then you can't sleep thinking about those things. And you're up early and starting again. And so kind of productivity is tough. And it was tough pre-COVID. And then we got locked down, and then all of a sudden we had kids at home. We weren't homeschooling. I love that. It's like you're homeschooling your kids. No, you're not. Definitely not. You just sat at home making sure they've got structure. There's no way. My daughter answered me an algebra question. Asked me an algebra question. I was like, yeah, it's worthless, pointless love. No one uses this in the real world. Are you going to be a mathematician? No. You're going to be a scientist? No. Forget it. Forget algebra. She's like, Dad, that's not really helpful. Homeschooling, but obviously we had your kind of kids at home too. Yeah, it was about giving them some structure. But of course, you know, they're going through some tough times as well. You know, particularly here in Australia, where there's no end in sight really for us. We're not, you know, opening up. The country's still closed. I'm turning this into a political podcast. We're still closed. So like it's brutal. So everybody needs a bit of love, care, and attention, a bit of airtime. But if you're working, you still have to do your job. And one of the things that I'm finding is organisations, many organisations have been great at realising that people can't get the same amount of work done as if they were in a kind of non-COVID scenario. And I'll talk about this on another culture podcast, but you know, when you think about the position that we're in, the situation that we're in right now, it's not normal, right? As a world, we're still kind of coming to terms with the virus. We're just about opening up in many parts of the world. Organizations are planning to bring people back into the office, and some people are getting it. I wrote about this in my new book, The Hybrid Handbook. Some of them getting it right, some of them getting it wrong. Apple have told their staff they have to be in 3 days a week, which on the face of it is good for hybrid working. It's like, yeah, cool, that's a good balance. 3 in work, 2 at home. But then they kind of sunk their own ship by saying, and those 3 days are, it's like, mate, you got it wrong. That's what you do. So, you know, this is not a normal situation that we're in right now. So organisations really do need to play a bit of a waiting game. They need to take a wait and see approach and kind of wait for things to normalise. So don't go giving up office space just yet. Don't go completely reconfiguring the office, although you want to get rid of that open plan because it was always a nonsense. And interestingly, for this podcast gets in the way of productivity, open plan offices, because it assumes everybody works in one way, which of course they don't. So there have been many demands on our time. Some, like I was saying, some organisations are good They've recognised that, and what they've done is kind of moderated the work as a result of that. They've adjusted targets, they've adjusted dates and deadlines. They've realised that the same amount of work isn't possible because people don't have the same number of productive hours, and that way it reduces the pressure on people. So you're better able to plan your days. But one of the biggest issues that we faced during the pandemic, and one of the biggest issues that we face generally, is this kind of constant distraction that's always there. There was a survey done at the end of 2020, and distraction was the number one reason for loss of productivity when people were asked distraction. And of course, distraction leads often to procrastination, and 30% of the world apparently are procrastinators. I imagine that's gone up during the pandemic because there's just so many demands on our time. So it's very easy to get lost and go down a rabbit hole, particularly if you're reading about the virus and numbers and confusing facts for opinions and getting all narky and all of that other stuff. But generally, even pre-COVID, we're the most distracted generation of people ever. Because we have all of this technology, but we forget that technology is there to serve us. Instead, we end up serving it rather than it being the other way around. So I just want to give you some tips on your own personal productivity and also for your teams as well. Because what you want to do is to squeeze as much as possible out of the day, right? As much as possible out of the day. You want to make sure that you set yourself some goals and that they're achievable and that you can collectively hit them without burning yourself out, without getting into this kind of senseless busyness that people generally get themselves in. And lots of people love talking about how busy they are. They see it as a kind of badge of honor. I'm so busy, I'm so 80 hours this week. Yeah, okay, whatever. And what you want to be is productive. So what are some things that you can do? Now, these things apply equally whether you're working from home or whether you're kind of in a hybrid environment where you're in the office some days, at home some days, or whether you're in the office. I think the thing to remember is that you're only able to get the best out of any day if you've planned it the day before. There are some people, I joke all the time about people who have 10 things on their task list and then say that they never get through their task list. It's like, well, yeah, you've just got too many things to do. You've set yourself up for failure like almost immediately because there's no way you can get those 10 things done unless you've got a completely clear day, right? If you've got a completely clear day, you've got a good chance of getting stuff done. Otherwise, you're setting yourself up for failure. There's no way you can get through everything. But that's what you want to do is you want to spend some time, before dinner would be preferable, and then you can switch off after dinner. The night before, and don't be having dinner at 10 o'clock because I've said that. So just make a list, and look at what's in your calendar the next day. If you've got 3 or 4 meetings, then you might only get 1 or 2 things done. If you've got back-to-back meetings, I'm going to definitely talking about that in a future podcast. Then back-to-back meetings all day, then you might not get 1 thing done. And your task might be stop it with all the back-to-back meetings for the following day. And then so once you've planned your day out, right, and you've had a look at all of your meetings, then I'm a big fan because people really lack respect when it comes to your time, and time is the most precious commodity that we have. It really, really is. Then I'm a big fan of just blocking out time in your calendar to make sure that it's a full day, so no one can put anything in there. And one of the things me and my teams used to do is we used to have a rule. We called it a collaboration principle. This is something that I've worked with teams on now. We set some collaboration principles, and one of them was no same day meetings. We wouldn't allow, unless there was a crisis, and it had to be some crisis, not something that someone forgot to do and we were trying to make into a crisis. No same day meetings because we'd all planned out our days the night before and we had a certain amount of things to get through. So what you can is plan your day the night before. What's those 1, 2 or 3 things? Now, one of the things that should be in there is time for lunch every day. So between like 12, 12:45, 12:30 to 1:15, 45 minutes where you need to take a break, right? And that's crucially important for your productive time because your brain needs a rest. And in that 45 minutes, so you should just block book it out. And if anyone tries to put anything in there, the answer is no. It's always no. Always no. Unless it's the boss, in which case it's sometimes yes for 15 minutes. But you need to take a break, right? You need to refresh your brain. And during that 45 minutes, what you're going to do is you're going to kind of put all screens aside, right? Don't look at your phone. Don't look at your laptop. Or if you want to procrastinate during that time, if that's when you want to look at your Facebook feed and your Instagram feed and your TikTok feed so you're not distracted during your working day, cool. Then make that the 45 minutes where you have your lunch and you do your procrastination. I'm a big fan of building in procrastination because if you don't build it in, it will just drain your day at some stage. So, I have my procrastination time. I like to get something done in the morning. It's 6:45 in the morning here while I'm recording this podcast. And then I'll like to do something else. Then I'll read the news, have a quick look at the news, and then I'll come back to the news at the end of the day. They're my procrastination points. But I'll have time for lunch as well, where I'll sit and watch some baseball that happens to be in my time zone at that time. So, that should be that, if you want to be productive, you need to take a break. You need to refresh your brain. You need to take on some water. Now, when you've got productive work to do, it's important that you create a bit of a routine. Now, the great thing is some people have already thought about all of this stuff. So there's a bunch of things that you can already use. Here's two. You can use the Pomodoro technique. So very, very simply, get a kitchen timer. It was named after the tomato. It was a Pomodoro. Just get a kitchen timer. Turn it to 25 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever time you feel you need to get your task done. And set it up. Now, at the end of that 25 minutes, if you haven't finished, that's okay, but you're still going to take a break. The timer's gone off, you're going to take a break, you're going to stretch, you're going to have a bit of a walk if you can, you're going to take up some fluid, some fruit, and then you're going to reset. Okay, so that's one thing you can do. Another thing is flow states, and I really like Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's book on flow. And this is 90 minutes of real dedicated work. This is something I really like to do. So, I like to take on some food and some fluids, get myself a big glass of water, and then just sit for 90 minutes and do something. Right, whatever it is, whatever's a priority. So I've got a 2.5 hour session with the senior leadership this morning on culture, which I'm really, really looking forward to. Then after that, so that finishes at 11 a.m. So after that, I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to set myself a half-hour task, and then I'm going to have my lunch, and then I'm going to do a 90-minute flow state in the afternoon. Then I'll probably go for a run. Right, so that's my kind of day already planned out. But 90 minutes is on something that requires a little bit more deep thinking. So for me, it's about research or content creation. What is it for you? You might be writing a report. You might be redesigning a process. You might have a number of sales calls to make. You might have to have 10 sales calls. Whatever it is set yourself kind of 90 minutes and time it. Now, for both of these techniques, they work best when you turn your phone off. Right, so put your phone on, unless you're expecting like an emergency call, put your phone on to silent. The thing is, if people want to get hold of you, they will leave you a message, right? They'll leave you a message. Turn all your notifications off. Close your email. Close it. Just close for the period of time where you need to just get some work done. Close it. So I don't have notifications on my phone at all, right? So what I try to do is check my email 3 or 4 times a day, depending on what it is that I'm doing. But I know that if I have the notifications on, as soon as it dings, it's a distraction. And it can take, research has shown it can take up to 17 minutes to refocus on something if you allow yourself to become distracted. So you have to kind of resist that at all costs. So put it on silent, just turn the notifications off, uninstall the email from your phone. That's what I did. When I used to be a permanent employee, and a lot of things that I used to do were different. It didn't make me any worse of an employee. In fact, I think it made me better. It made me more productive because I wasn't as distracted. And I always knew that if people had an emergency, that they would phone me. So Pomodoro technique, flow states, turn off anything that can distract you. Make sure you set your work area up for work so there's nothing around you that can distract you. I was coaching somebody and I had to put their phone in a drawer. Cool, whatever you need to do. Put your phone in the drawer, send it in another room, Buy a web page blocker for your browser to stop you, an extension to stop you going on certain web pages if you feel like you can't control yourself. Have a different browser windows for different things. So I have one for procrastination. I use Google Chrome, and it allows me to have different kind of setups for different profiles. So I've got a work profile, I've got a personal profile. A personal one I'd only ever use at the start and the end of the day, and the work one is throughout the day. But in order for you to get the most from your days, you need to have structure. You need some discipline. And you might need to change some habits, because there are some things around you, and some people, it has to be said, that seek to just distract you all of the time. It's not rude to tell people that you'll phone them back because you're working on something of a higher priority right now. It's not rude at all. In fact, without me and my teams, what we used to do is let people know. We used to say, I'm going to work on this thing for 90 minutes and won't be contactable. That's fine. You can put an out of office on for 90 minutes or for half a day if you're working on something. Again, what you're doing is actually becoming a role model for productivity. And that's what we need. We need more of those kind of people. Like I said, time is the most precious commodity that you have. So it's important that you use it wisely. Thanks for listening today. I hope wherever you are in the world, you have a fantastic day. And don't forget to share the podcast if you've enjoyed it. Talk to you next week. Oh, one more thing. Yes, I had one question this week, and it was, what does the D in your name stand for? Because I go by the name of Colin D. Ellis. It's David, where I'm from. There's a tradition of firstborn sons taking their father's name as their middle name, father's or grandfather's name as their middle name. So my dad's name is David, hence my middle name is David. Interestingly, my nephew's middle name is also David, so it's granddad. My son doesn't have a middle name, so I've totally killed that tradition. If you do have any questions, if there's any subjects you'd like me to cover, just drop me a note at cde@culturefix.xyz. Speak to you next week.